Hello beloved YouTubers. To kick off our terrain tips series, we're going to be discussing one of the most common problems we encounter as terrain crafters. I'm talking about warping. Now when I say warping, I'm referring to what happens to a piece of cardboard, paper, or even foam board when it curls or goes wavy instead of being straight or flat. Usually this type of thing occurs when the material gets wet. Once it dries, you will oftentimes have it cup, or bow, or even worse, go all wavy and ripply. This is especially the case when it's not water making it wet, but paint, glue, varnish, or other similar substances. Now, there are a few factors that we need to understand here in order to both anticipate and counter or prevent this side effect. First, it would help if we understand the properties of the material we're working with. Whether we're talking about cardboard or foam board, the major factors are the same. This is mostly because they're both composed of paper products. In the case of corrugated cardboard, it is in fact 2 layers of paper with a corrugated center. Foam board is 2 layers of paper with a polystyrene foam in the center. In fact, when it comes to warping, paper products are the most likely candidates to behave in this way, especially materials that are layered, like the 2 examples I just gave. Why does this happen? Let's look at the composition of paper. I wrote a section of my recent book, Immersive Tabletop Techniques, on the very phenomenon in relation to paper products specifically. If you've already read it, then you'll know where I'm going with this. If you haven't read it, then you may find this enlightening. Also, if you would like to purchase a copy of that book, you can do that at immersiveterrain.com. Back to the subject at hand, paper and wood are the most likely culprits when it comes to warping. This is because a sheet of paper or cardboard, though it may look uniform across its surface, is not uniform at all. If you were to look at a piece of paper under a microscope, you would see a collection of wood particles, all different shapes and sizes, all oriented in different directions. Many types of paper and cardboard will often include non-wood materials like cotton or talc. All of these will expand and shrink at different rates when made wet. So even though you think the cardboard you're working with is one piece, it is in fact a collection of many, many tiny pieces that all have different properties. The other factors we need to take into consideration when dealing with warping is the behavior of the glue and/or paint we're applying to said cardboard. With things like PVA and acrylic paint, they tend to shrink as they dry. This is what makes the edges of your cardboard curl towards the painted side. This is a result of the painted side expanding when wet and then shrinking when it dries, while the other side that was not painted stays at its original size. Now, there are a few ways to help counter this phenomenon. At the very least, we can try to minimize it, or even use it to our advantage. Regardless, it's a side effect that should be anticipated whenever working with paper or wood products. There are a few techniques we could take into consideration here. 1. Painting both sides either simultaneously or as quickly in succession as possible. The anecdote I used in my previously mentioned book comes from the decade I spent as a cabinet maker. To reiterate the story for those who haven't read the book, when staining and lacquering a tabletop, both sides have to be sealed and stained in succession. This often means staining the bottom of the tabletop first, then flipping it over and staining the top side. If you were to only stain the top side without applying the liquid to the bottom first, by the time the stain dried, the table would have cupped or bowed. Often, this will result in the corners curling upward, but could also lead to the entire top bowing. Since paper products like cardboard and foam board follow a lot of the same rules as wood products, this is the technique we must apply to our terrain. If you've made a base for your terrain piece out of cardboard, I would suggest painting the bottom of the base before putting glue and sand on the top of the base. This will hopefully ensure that they shrink at similar rates. If the bottom dries before you get to paint the top, then it will hopefully curl downwards at least. In this case, hoping the weight of the piece can help flatten it out once you paint the top side. If you were to paint the top side without painting the bottom side first, it will often cause the edges to curl upward. If this happens, it will be next to impossible to correct. Even if you paint the bottom side afterwards, you're better to do it the other way around first. But there are other techniques we can consider as well. 2. Applying something with low moisture content before the paint or glue. To continue with the cardboard base example, we can oftentimes apply a substance that is lower in moisture content than paint or glue. Personally, I like to coat my bases in Spackle before adding textured paint. Spackle has much less moisture than paint, as you can likely tell by its viscosity. This effectively means that it will soak into the pores of the cardboard, but much less than the paint or glue. It also doesn't shrink as much as paint or glue while it dries. This effectively means that it will not cause much warping as straight paint on cardboard would, while also creating a nice shell on the top, protecting the cardboard from any successive layers of paint or glue. I also like using Spackle on the bases of my terrain features for reasons that don't directly relate to warping, but do improve the realism of the piece. It not only can help bury edges of buildings and things, making them appear to have been there a long while, it could also be used to create little lumps and bumps on the otherwise completely flat base. Again, adding to the realism of the piece, making a two birds with one stone sort of situation. There are other substances one could apply to the cardboard before paint and glue as well. Look for substances that are more viscous, leading to less absorption and therefore less shrinking. This could include things like tacky glue instead of PVA. Perhaps latex-based rust paint as opposed to water-based acrylic paint. Use your imagination and get resourceful. Thanks for watching, folks, and I hope you found this educational at the very least. If you like this video, make sure to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss out on any future tips. Happy crafting. Congratulations, you made it to the end of the video. If you like this terrain project, you can purchase this exact project and or others like it on immersiveterrain.com. There are other ways to support Immersive Terrain on the site as well. If you don't want to buy one of my finished pieces, you're in luck. Immersive Terrain also sells MDF and resin terrain kits. You can also buy merch featuring clever sayings, as well as, of course, the Immersive Terrain logo. I've even released a series of books on the subject of terrain crafting. These are available in both PDF and softcover formats on immersiveterrain.com. So after you like this video and subscribe to this channel, make sure to visit immersiveterrain.com and help a brother out by offering your support. Happy crafting, everyone.